So then I don't have to take a bunch of notes. That's great.
No, and I'm going to screen share.
Good.
I'm really into over screen sharing, so.
Oh, that's good.
I learned something new today on my computer. I'm totally jazzed, which is I can do a slideshow in presenter view and put the presenter piece on my monitor next to me and keep the rest of the presentation on the part that's recording so I can still see my notes. I'm so glad. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So what we have planned tonight is to talk to you a little bit about the pathway, because you're at the point in the course where you can start to think really carefully about whether you're going to go for our certificate of completion or the certificate of achievement. So I'm just going to walk through those really quickly, and then we're going to let you ask questions, and we're going to walk you through any technical questions you have, especially in the throes of accessibility. It can be really important to get those questions answered. And I also want to kind of place it out there that there's a big shift in the course from now until the end of the course. Before, we were talking about a lot of theory, and your assignments were moderate level of you working, but there was more work in the unit. And we've shifted to shorter units and a lot more work on your side, getting your content built, and you're deep into that kind of technical aspect of it. So there's absolutely no reason for you to bang your head against a wall if you're having a technical question or if you can't figure something out. There's someone available to you from 9 from 8 until 6 at 1.
Nice.
Almost every single day. And then after hours, I'm available to you as well. I give you my phone number so you can text me, especially on weekends. We don't want you frustrated. We don't want you spending hours trying to figure out one little thing where if you had a 5-minute conference call with us, you'd be over that hump and working on your course like you should be. So please feel free to reach out to us. That's what we're here for.
Cool.
And if one of us can't answer the question, because, you ask really good questions and sometimes it happens that we can't. We have a whole team that each has different experience with Canvas and with course building. And so we will find the answer for you fairly quickly. Both Myra and I love to be stumped. So we love when people ask us a question we don't know. And sometimes we even kind of maybe have a little competition to see who can figure it out the fastest. So you're not going to hurt us in any way by asking us a question. It's not going to hurt our feelings if we can't answer it for you. We'll find the answer. We'll get it for you if we can. Okay, so these two certificates that we're talking about are the certificate of completion and the certificate of achievement. In order to apply for the certificate of achievement, you have to meet everything for the certificate of completion. So you have first one, and then you have the second. For the certificate of completion, you need to do all the coursework in OESP with a score of 80% or higher. So I started to say you have to complete all of the coursework, but some people opt out of a couple of things because they have a busy week. And then they say, oh my gosh, I missed this assignment. Am I not going to pass? But if you still have 80%, then you can still pass the course. There's wiggle room there because we know that you have busy schedules and sometimes you just get swamped. So once you've done all of the coursework, the other certificate that you can apply for is the certificate of achievement. And in order to do that, you need to complete a sandbox and complete an e-portfolio, and then you present those to us in a 1-hour presentation. So let me talk just a quick moment about what completion actually means. I went too fast. Okay, so for your sandbox, what we're hoping that the sandbox will do is that it will illustrate intentional design. So you are purposefully controlling the design of whatever is in your sandbox so that it meets the OEI course design rubric standards. And so each week we have pointed to a specific course design tenant, and that's the focus of that week. And we're hoping that you'll think through that particular piece of the OEI rubric and what it actually means for your course. So in your sandbox, what we hope to see is a complete orientation unit and a complete learning unit. So you don't have to finish the whole sandbox in this 12-week course unless you have an amazing course that you've already been teaching that you can quickly migrate into your sandbox. Your chances of building out a full course are pretty slim, and we're not expecting that of you. So we just want to see one learning unit. First, let's talk about that orientation. What we want to see in your orientation is everything that you would do in your face-to-face course. So in our first week in our face-to-face course, we usually go over the syllabus. We talk about the assignments and how we're going to grade and things like that. We get to know our students. So that's what you need to do in an online environment as well. But the online environment is just slightly different than the face-to-face environment. So there's some other things that need to be added to it as well. So one of them is that right away you need to give your students instructor contact information. They need to have multiple ways of reaching you so that they can figure out if they can't navigate the course, how to get in touch with you, or if they're behind in something, how to get in touch with you. And that first week there's a kind of a critical contact period for reaching out to the student and making sure that they can actually get a hold of you and ask questions that they need to. And then the other piece for an online course is that not every student is really ready to take online courses, or they may have, they may believe in some myths about online teaching. For instance, that an online class is way easier than a face-to-face class, or that there's only going to be multiple choice tests, or that you can do it on your own time. And so we really suggest that you have a readiness test in there. And the great thing is that we've linked you to the ones that have been created by OEI, and those are terrific readiness tests. If your campus currently uses one that's not part of OEI, that's fine as well. Although one of the things that we want you to kind of look at is whether or not your campus readiness test or a readiness test you found someplace else is actually up to speed, if it needs to be updated or not. A lot of these that came out 5 or 10 years ago, they actually reinforce some of the myths of online teaching. For instance, they talk about if you're an independent learner who doesn't need to interact with other students to learn something, then online learning might be great for you. But what we've discovered is that when we create lots of interaction in our online class, our students actually do better. So that student who's taking the online readiness test that's being told it's totally okay to be independent and not need anybody else is going to be totally shocked if they go into your class and, like mine, there's collaborative work and there's a weekly discussion forum. And so we want to make sure that that readiness test actually is supporting what we now know leads to a better learning community, which leads us to the next bolded point, which is somewhere in that first week you need to have some kind of activity that starts to build that learning community for you, but it also has a second role, which is you need to be able to report to via the census that you actually have students who are working in your course. So it's not enough that they just log in. According to federal guidelines for financial aid, we actually have to prove that that online student is working in our course. So you need to have some activity that they're doing that illustrates they're not a robot or not a fraud group that's just in there, filling up our courses with not live students, not real students. And then also, because students who are taking online courses don't have to go through the same DSPS reporting that a face-to-face student goes through, you need to make sure that you have support services in that orientation week. So anyone that needs help can get the help that they need. So you have to point them in the right direction. And then the last thing that we suggest for your orientation is that you have something that allows the students to test their hardware and software to make sure that not only are they ready for online learning, but that they have the technology that they need for online learning as well. And when you look at those software requirements, you should even be looking at, if you have Word documents in your course, you need to let them know the very first week of class so that they can purchase the software that they need to either read the documents that you have or to make documents if you're requiring them to make Word documents. So now we've got all kinds of things like Google. So if you're stuck on Word docs, maybe you need to spread your wings too and learn more about the free online software. But That's the bones of the orientation unit that we want to see you build out. There's a ton more that you can do in your orientation unit. But before I move on, I want to see if anyone has questions about that or would like to talk about the orientation unit. You would have to unmute yourself to ask the question.
Okay, so I got my quick question is you didn't mention anything here about the well, introduction video and navigation video, but I noticed that in this week's assignment we're going to be working at least on the introduction video, right? So those should be in the orientation also, correct?
Yes, they should. And I should probably add that as a bulletin point because it's part of the student support, but it's not necessarily a service, right? Okay. So it's part of what we say the student needs to have in order to be able to make it through your course. And that first navigation video, I mean, there's some terrific things that are put out by Canvas. They're just doing an amazing job of providing start modules for our students, how to use the Canvas tools, and every single one of their individual guides, you can put them throughout the course where they're needed. But your course is going to be unique no matter what. Even if you used a template from your school, there's still something unique about your course. And so that individual navigation video that walks them through is so important. So yeah, thank you very much for bringing that up. It's a really important part of your course. Okay, we'll move on to the learning unit, and if you have other questions, we can always loop back around. So this one is a little bit more difficult because every single one of our courses is different. So many people think, well, all I have to do is build a week then. But a week in most college courses is not a full learning unit. So when you think about your learning unit, what we want you to think about is everything that you need to do to work up to one of the summative assessments. So if you have a midterm and a final in your course, it's everything that you do to build up to one of those. In my course, for instance, I teach both writing and communication. And I first started teaching writing, and writing has this thing, it's kind of across the board. There's 5 major assignments that are due in the course of a semester. So it's really easy to kind of divide your semester up into these 5 units that focus on each one of those summative assessments. So when I started teaching communication, I just followed that path. It made it easy for me to kind of just make then 5 learning units with these summative assessments. So each one of my units is 3 weeks long, and at the end of it, we do a series of tasks, and then at the end of it, we do a summative assessment. But that's only one model. There's so many that are out there. You could have a 2-week unit and followed by a 6-week unit, and then a 4-week unit, if that's what makes sense for the assignments that you're doing in your course and your learning objectives and your students. So if you have just maybe 2 major summative assessments, then when we're asking for a learning unit, we're asking for 8 weeks of material, and that is a lot. And so you might not be able to build all of the content you need for that full 8-week unit. But what we would want to see is that summative assessment, so what your final assessment looks like, what you're aiming for with your students, and a grading rubric for that. And then we want to get a sense of what the rest of the unit would look like. So how are you going to parse it out? How are you going to map it over the course of the time that you have set aside for it? Do you have a content page that introduces the unit and gives an overview of the unit? Do you explain to the student how long it's going to take them and what's going to be due and when it's going to be due? And then how are you going to present the content for that unit? You might not be able to build all the content for the learning unit, but we want to see enough of it that we understand the direction that you're heading and so that we can give you really good formative feedback. So that learning unit is a little bit more nebulous than the orientation unit. We know our orientation unit is probably going to be a week, but that learning unit could be anywhere from 1 week to 10 weeks. It's really up to you and the content that you're presenting. And so then how deep we want that to be, how much content there needs to be is going to be dependent upon you and your course and what you actually have already built and what you need help building. So that's going to require more kind of discussion with you and myself and We're going to pair you with someone to help you as well. So your mentor or guide might be able to help you too. Let's see. Okay, the next part that goes kind of hand in hand with the sandbox is your ePortfolio. This is the first group where we've actually had you put the ePortfolio right into your sandbox as a module. If you haven't done that yet, I really strongly urge you to download that ePortfolio module that we gave you and upload it into your course. The reason why we did this, we used to use the ePortfolio tool that comes with Canvas, and it's a fabulous tool. But you have to learn how to use that tool on top of everything else. And at this point in the course, we think that you're really striving to learn the Canvas tools, and to add one more complex tool on top of that is a little bit of overkill. So instead, and there was one other problem, which is your ePortfolio is attached to your CCC Online Ed account, and your sandbox is attached to your Canvas.instructure account. And so people wanted to link them back and forth to refer, and they're in different instances. And so that linking is not always as easy and seamless as you would like it to be. So you might make the link, but then when someone clicks on it, it says that they don't have access to one place or the other. So the candidates were getting kind of frustrated by the lack of connection between the ePortfolio and the sandbox. So now we've combined them for you. We've made this nice unit, and we've also given you all of the text to the @ONE standards. And what we would like to see is that as you go in and copy and paste the reflections that you've already created and put them into your the @ONE standards, that you're into the different pages of the ePortfolio, that you're actually refining them, revising them, and adding to them, because we hope that what you now know about Standard 1 is going to be far different than what you wrote about Standard 1 in the week that you addressed it. So we think that your knowledge of the @ONE standards is growing really exponentially. So we want to see you kind of revising it a little bit. Also, you might have only addressed one of the points in each one of the standards, and so we'd like you to at least think about the other points in that @ONE standards. And then because it's in your sandbox, it's going to be really easy for you to link to examples within your sandbox. So if you're talking about, so Standard 1 is about student success, and it really focuses on week 1 and the orientation. It says that you understand the barriers to student success in online teaching and in your particular field, and that you've done something in your course design to help students be successful. And one of the bulletin points explicitly talks about policies, clear policies in your syllabus. And another one talks about a readiness test to help your students understand whether or not they're ready for online learning. So now in your reflection about that standard, it's going to be really easy for you to link back to the place in your orientation unit, for instance, where you have a particular policy or where you have a readiness test. And so it allows for kind of a seamless integration between the ePortfolio and the sandbox. So that's all I have as part of the presentation for tonight about where you're headed. And the rest of the time, we would really like to give to you to ask questions about how you're building your sandbox, how you're building your ePortfolio, and letting us help you with the technical aspects or the design aspects of it. So we're going to kind of hand the floor over to you for questions. I'm going to keep sharing because I imagine that some of your questions are going to be about how to do something. And so I have a sandbox open so that we can show you how to do whatever you'd like to know.
So I've been having lots of fun with the ePortfolio tool.
I love the ePortfolio tool. I mean, I absolutely love it. And I have to say, I've been using it for, for about 2.5 years now, because I've been teaching a pilot course for UC Santa Cruz that started 2 years ago. And so I've kind of been having my students at Santa Cruz use it as we were developing OESP. And those students are so good with it. Their portfolios are amazing, but the faculty, not so much. And I mean, which is really, really interesting, right? And so we just decided that it's too much to learn both of them at the same time.
Yeah, I made the mistake of not finishing reading that announcement. I think I just stopped for whatever reason. It didn't finish all the way down. So I went off into my in the @ONE shell and started trying to build the ePortfolio in there, and then I went into my sandbox, started building it, and yeah, it's not intuitive. I think you really do need someone to show you, kind of lead you by the hand and show you how the thing works.
Yeah.
So I'm really stoked about what you're doing. I agree, it's going to make it much easier. So what I need to do is just build a module that says, call it ePortfolio module, and move all those pages into that module, and then continue filling it out in there. I started working on it a little bit today, and I think I'm kind of getting the rhythm of it, that I'm going into each one of those pages, putting in evidence, putting in my writing, putting in my reflections, making it pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
So, on those pages, do we just want links to other stuff within my shell, right? Within my sandbox?
So the easiest way to do it is with links. And, just because I don't want to make any assumptions at all, let me talk really quickly about that. So in this sandbox, say that, you know what I was going to, for posterity, let's do this really quickly. For the people who maybe didn't read that announcement at all and are not sure how to upload that ePortfolio module.
Oh, yeah.
You're here under settings, and then it's going to open up a bunch of tabs for you up here. The course details, sections, navigation, apps, and features. So you can just ignore all that for right now. And you're going to come over here to import content into this course. And then you're going to select as the content type a Canvas course export package, which we have neatly wrapped with a bow on top of it for you.
Yes, you did. And
then you're going to choose the file. And then you're going to go to, look, I thought I had it all set up, and I don't. I'm going to find the file in your messy folder under portfolios. If you know how to, it's under ePortfolio. That's why I can't quite get my alphabetizing straight. Okay, and then you're going to select all content and then import. And when you do that, it's going to create the module for you. Okay, so if you go back into modules now, I'm going to move our heads around again. You'll see that you now have that ePortfolio module. So it's just put it right in there for you. And so let's say that I'm in standard 1.3. Well, it's actually standard 1. It says 0.3 because I've done this 3 times in this course, showing people how. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to go into editing here. And eventually, you can take out these 2 sections. But we want you to keep this section right here that has the text of the standard as a reminder for what you should be doing, okay? And say that you wanted to address at some point, the second point here says that you have a syllabus or course materials that include explicit policies and procedures. And say that you were talking about, I have an explicit policy on using discussions because they're important. Hopefully your reflection is just a little bit more, developed than that. But you want to say policy on using discussions, and you want that to be your meaningful text that's going to take you then to that policy on discussions. So if you come over here, what you would do is link to discussions. And then it automatically puts in that link for you. The reason why you want to do it from this particular menu is when you copy this course, then it will automatically update that link for you and copy the right link for the new course, right? So if you've ever done a course copy before, one of the things that you have to do is go through and correct all of your links to places within your course. So in Blackboard or in Moodle or in Etudes, you would have to go back through and look for your links and correct them and update them to make sure that they stay stable. But in Canvas, you no longer have to do that because it will automatically update the link for you when you copy your course. And you can link to anything. You can link to one of your content pages, you can link to an assignment, to a quiz, an announcement. So these are really dynamic links and you just do it by adding them right here, okay? So for instance, if I wanted to say I have a series of pages that outline my policies, I could also then go back to my wiki pages and look for those pages. If I've named them correctly, then they're going to be really self-explanatory here. They're going to be meaningful links just by doing this, right? So I'm trying to think what any of these policy pages are called. Time commitment. What else is there? Issue, that's not policy. Ethical use of technology. Okay, so I'm just making that list. And then if you really wanted to do it, commitment is spelled wrong. It's probably in all of our courses. Typo. You could make it into a bulleted list as well if you wanted to kind of jazz up the formatting there. So, okay, that was a little interruption about creating those links. So that's how you would do it in your ePortfolio.
That was really helpful. Thank you. That makes it a lot clearer.
Yeah. So easy to make links in Canvas. You're never going to be copying a URL from one place of your course to another ever again. So that's totally cool. Other questions?
Let's see. Okay. I'm just wondering, like, I do know that you were saying, like, we did do a lot of theory in the beginning of development of this course. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, like, when I kind of really get going on my sandbox, which I sort of am, but I'm sort of not. But at some point, can I have somebody go and look at it and let me know if I'm even going on the right? Because I really don't know what it's supposed to look like in a sense. So I really don't know if I'm doing it right. And let's say at some point I just say, am I on the right track? Will somebody come and look at it?
Yeah, of course. So we put mentors with you. And so if you choose to go for a certificate of achievement, then we have someone come in and give you some feedback, and you can ask them tons of questions. And we'll also join you in your sandbox at any time. As a matter of fact, we think it's a really good practice for you to invite us. And we want to encourage you in your sandbox to create a virtual office. So if we haven't talked about virtual offices before, have we done that yet? Oh, okay. So we should talk about how to create a virtual office so that you could invite us to your sandbox and we could have a meeting in your virtual office. So.
Okay, so whenever I reach a point that I would say, I need somebody to look at this, then I could contact someone and someone would set up a meeting with me.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's my only question at this point. Oh, my one other question is, will we be learning how to make the home page?
I'm going to talk about that next.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had a question about how many units to create, because I heard you say that it might be an 8-week unit. Mine are 1-week units. I have 16 of them. It's a health ed class. Every week's a new topic.
Uh-huh.
So how many of those do you want me to create for the class, the sandbox?
Yeah, so this is how every single class is different, right? So what are your summative assessments? Do they do a summative assessment at the end of every single week?
Yeah, they write essay, reflection essay. It's very student-centered. I don't do a whole lot of lecture material in the course. They have to do their own, and they write these little papers, and then I do a reflection at the end of the week that they respond to. So it's writing, it's summative, and then I have the little quizzes. And
yeah. So do they do any big project at the end of the course, or?
Not in the course that I'm putting. I have others that I have big, but this one, there's so much material to cover.
Yeah.
I really just don't do any big.
Yeah. So then I would say that you could build out a week. And if you want to build out a little bit more so that you can get feedback, then, go at your comfort level.
Okay.
But you definitely, you're working toward that summative assessment. And so we're trying to help people recognize when their summative assessment aligns with their course content and with their learning objectives. And so as long as you're illustrating that, you're totally fine.
Okay. So I'm going to be teaching this class in Canvas in the spring. College Run's moving this spring. Can I take this I might as well just build the whole thing. I've been teaching forever, so it's not that hard to move it into Canvas. But
okay, Methuselah.
Can I take that, the sandbox and put it into my...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that
I thought
course,
so. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that course module, the cartridge that I showed you. So you're going to do the same thing. When you're all done, you're going to export it, and it's going to ask you, export it to what? And you're going to want one of those course cartridges. Mm-hmm. And then you download it to your desktop. It takes I have a pretty well built out communication course that it took 6 minutes the other day for it to buffer and download. Mm-hmm. And then when I uploaded it, it took 3 minutes, and then it was done, right? So yeah, it's really easy to move from place to place.
Good. Okay.
Now, if you've created links where you've copied that URL and made a link by copying the URL, then you're going to have problems because you're going to have to go back and reconnect all of those links. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying to outside websites, those stay stable, but your course website, your discussion number 1 is going to be at a different URL now, right? So that's where you really want to use those links. Anytime you're linking to something else in your course, you want to use that link feature in Canvas. We learned that the hard way at One when we built our first course.
Okay.
It worked fine the first time we used it, and the second time we used it, we were like, where are all the broken links coming from?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about that homepage, because this is a little bit of Canvas training. Canvas allows you to choose your homepage. And so people who are coming from Blackboard often choose to have this activity page, because it looks a little bit like the announcements that are the front page of Blackboard. And so Blackboard people really gravitate toward it. But we want to encourage you to think outside of the Blackboard box by telling you that this course stream is already going to appear right here for your students in the coming up and the to-do list. So everything that's right there is going to appear anyway over here. So we really want to encourage you to design a homepage that helps your students navigate. So people often feel like they should design for the student who is tech savvy. And of course, we should keep that student in mind. But when you're designing your homepage, what you should really be thinking about is the student who has been out of college for 20 years and is coming back and didn't work in a field that had computers, just didn't need it. Right? And so now they're here, they're trying to improve their career and learning how to deal with technology. Or a student who may be a digital native, but this doesn't look anything like Instagram or any of those. And so they're looking at it and trying to figure out how to navigate through, because it doesn't look like Facebook, although, the kids don't even use Facebook anymore. My kids would tell me I'm a dinosaur for using that as an example. So don't tell them, please. So we have to think about what our students are going to need the very, very first time they land in our course. So what information do they need to know the second they land here, especially if they're a little bit nervous about taking an online course or are not quite sure what they need to do? And so they need to know that they're in the right place. Even though they just clicked on your course name, they still need to know they're in the right place. And they need to be welcomed, and they need to know how to contact you. So that landing page should have very, very basic information on it about the course, and it should be designed to be welcoming. The other interesting thing about Canvas, how many people have noticed that you kind of next through? You could spend your whole life just nexting through Canvas. Yeah. Well, the home page has no next button. It's the only piece that, well, that and the syllabus is not connected to a next. So you have to create some kind of navigation that explains to them what they're supposed to do. The most common thing that people do is say, start with the syllabus. And so students can find the syllabus over here and they click on it. I have no idea what this is going to take me to. Okay, oh, this is perfect. Okay, so they click on that and here they have the syllabus, and we've seen a couple of things. First, that people don't edit out this text. So this is just garbage that Canvas has put in here to tell you about this particular tool, right? But it's not really a syllabus. It's actually a calendar of all of the assignments that are due. So in a fully built out class, what you'll see is all of the due dates in order and the assignments that are due in that time. So it's a terrific tool for students. If they ever want to know what should I be doing right now, they can go to the syllabus and they can see that assignment summary, okay? But there is no syllabus. So what people often do is they click edit and then they copy and paste their whole syllabus in here. So I don't know about you, but my syllabus is about 14 pages. So if I copied 14 pages of text in here and then updated my syllabus, in order to get to this really useful calendar, students would have to scroll and scroll and scroll, okay? And then the other problem is, so they've gone from the home page, let me start over again, and we're assuming that there's text here or a link here or something from you that tells them to go to the syllabus next. So they go from the home page to the syllabus. They read a little bit about your class. They see that list of assignments that they have to do. What do they do next? If you haven't provided some kind of navigation tip for them, they're down a rabbit hole. They have gone to a dead end and they have no way to navigate through the course. Now, if they've taken an online course before, they might see modules and they might say, okay, I'm going to go to modules. But if they haven't taken an online course before, that language of module or learning module might not mean anything to them. And so they literally won't be able to figure out what to do next. So you have to think through on day one, if you're going to direct them to something, what are you going to direct them to and what are you going to tell them to do next? And are you providing that built-in navigation for them to help them get from place to place? Okay. The other thing that you can do, let's go back to the home. You get to choose your home page and you're allowed to choose from this. It's called the course activities stream, or you can start at course modules or the assignments list. That's the syllabus. Oh, that's not the syllabus. I'm sorry. I lied to you. Or the syllabus or the assignments list. So let's look at what those are. And then there's this other one right here that says the front page. Okay. But that's not, you can't even click it right now. Okay. And the reason why you can't click it is because it has to be set first in pages. All right. So let's go to the other ones first. The first one that it gave you was course modules. So you could make this your homepage. So when students log in, they land here on this page. It says, welcome to course 101. And you have to hope that they have enough understanding of how the internet works to click on this, right? But the problem is that there's a lot going on this page. Well, they won't see the little gears, but they'll see other pieces over here, and they'll see due dates and everything else. And so from the student view, for instance, a discussion forum will have the due date attached to it. And so if you were a student and you saw something with a due date, what would you do first? Right, so you could just click right here. Well, where's my discussion? Down here at getting to know you, because it's got a point value, and the rest of this doesn't even have a point value. Okay. So in this case, we've actually made it so this module, you have to start at the beginning and view from the next to the next to the next. And so if that's the case, maybe we don't want them to see this module view, what we call the table of contents. Maybe we want to start them right in the chapter, the orientation chapter, okay? So it might be better for them to start here, and then they can just click on next and move on from there, right? Okay, so think about that. Okay, we're gonna go back to that home page. It also lets us choose the assignments list, okay? So keep clicking save when I really want cancel. The assignments list is right here, and it's all the assignments in your course, and they're listed according to how you have categorized them, okay? So it's not necessarily by unit or anything else. You have to choose the category for the assignment. We'll talk about that way later in the course, okay? So these categories may be by discussions versus quizzes versus assignments. This says imported assignments right now because we just imported this course shell, and so that for sure is going to confuse them. They're not going to know what an imported assignment is, right? So this assignment list will get them right to what they have to do for point value in the course, but it won't necessarily get them involved in the content. So the danger is that they'll skip the content completely. I know it's hard to imagine that your students would go right to an assignment and not do the content, but it's true, okay? So there's a problem with the assignment page as the home page. Then the next is the syllabus, and we've already talked about the problem with that. Your syllabus is going to stay fairly static, right? It's not going to change as weeks go on. And so what they would be getting is that same information over and over and over again, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially since you have the assignments list here, but you could be more dynamic by choosing something else. Okay, so for instance, I'm going to go to Pages. I number everything in my course, which makes, these are in alphabetical order. This is, if you haven't played around with Pages yet, this is every page you've created in your course so far. And it's just kind of like a background file that is there helping you keep track of the pages that you've created. And I number them so that they'll be in numerical order. Right now they're in alphabetical order. And so I'm going to go down here to Welcome to Course 101. And then I'm going to go over here to the year, and I'm going to click on Use this as the front page. And when I do that, and I go back to Home, and I tell it, use Pages as my front page, and save that, then magically there's that page, right? So now they get to start with a specific page that you're pointing out. Here's the problem. Where is the next button? It's gone. So when something is the front page, it no longer has the next button. So even though this is the front page, the first page in my module, it's not going to take them to the rest of the module. As a matter of fact, select next to continue is pointing them down to absolutely nothing. So they would be really confused by that. So what you have to do is kind of design a page that's going to be that front page. Would you like me to show you a couple examples? Okay. So I will go out of this sandbox. It's very slow right now.
Could you have also though said with an arrow to the left where this menu is to say please click on the whatever in that menu on the left?
So this menu right here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple yes and no.
Okay.
If they're on a mobile phone, that menu is not going to be there. And if they're on an iPad, depending on the size of the iPad, it could be there, it could not be there.
Okay.
So, and then also, if they've closed that menu, they may not even know that they closed it, right? They'll just tell you, I don't have a menu, right? And so then it's a little bit harder, okay? So this is my gender and communication course, and this is actually the 4th week of my course. So I'll show you week 1 as well, but in this unit, this is unit number 1, and the first week of the unit, only this button appears. In the second week of the unit, this button appears with this one, and in the 3rd week of the unit, the 3rd button is here. So when students click on that button, it takes them directly to, in this case, the beginning of the unit. So this is the overview of the unit. There's a brief little video where I tell them what we're going to do in the unit and how the unit is structured. This is the very first unit of the course, so this is really just kind of like helping them think through the whole course. And then this first time I give them the flow of the units. This is what you can expect to do. This is how you're going to spend your time, and this is what you should do in order to be successful. Now, the rest of the units, I don't do that. I kind of figured that they can use unit 1 as a model, and then they can figure it out for unit 2, right? So from that home page, what they need to do to get into the unit is click on this, right? And so that's just a little image button. And then I've linked it using that link tool. And then that gets them into the next, and they can next through the rest of the unit. I have a to-do list. Because my units are 3 weeks, I use the, this is a table, a standard table in Canvas. And so it's green, yellow, and red to just like separate the week 1, week 2, and week 3. And then the first thing that I do in all of my units is give them the final summative assessment. So they know the entire unit, what they're working toward. This is a strategy that we use in writing classes all the time, because you give them the writing assignment early in the unit so that they can be working on it. And I find that it works well in my communication courses as well. And that way they can see the rubric too, and they know, what they need to do in order to be successful in that project. And this is a rubric created using Canvas. And then once they're done with that, they launch into the lesson. And I use SoftChalk, and it's going to tell you there's a content error here because I haven't set it up for grading in this sandbox. But they would launch into the content of the course, and then they would go to the discussion. So if you look at my modules, what you'll see is a flow to those 3-week modules where okay, sorry, I was showing someone how to rearrange here. So it's like, wait, that's not the module. Okay, so there's the unit overview, then the to-do list, and then the assignment. And then there's a lesson, a discussion, a lesson, a discussion, a lesson, a discussion, and then the unit summary. So because I'm using SoftChalk, this lesson is all on one single page, but each one of those lessons is really somewhere in between 9 and 12 pages is my sweet spot. That's what students can do in a week, right? And there's videos on there. There's other types of content that they need to read through. There's very, very short screencast videos that I've created that might walk them through a concept or something like that in those content pages. So if you were building a Canvas course, you might have 9 content pages as part of your unit if you were using this type of model instead of the SoftChalk. But you can see over the course of 3 weeks that there's a natural kind of flow to it, that students can expect they're going to do this lesson and then they're going to do this discussion. So they know what to expect. So in week 1, that link drops them here. In week 2, it drops them into the second lesson. And in week 3, it drops them into the 3rd lesson. So that home page is kind of taking them right to where they need to be for that particular part of the lesson. So this one drops them right into the lesson. It would be better if this was actually working so you could see, but you get the picture. So if I go into Pages, and view all of my pages, what you'll see is down here at the end, I have built these very, very simple pages for the start of each one of my weeks. So there's Unit 1, Week 2, Unit 1, Week 3, Unit 2, Unit 2, Week 2, Unit 3, Overview. So each one of these is a separate little page that I've built that will eventually become the homepage for that week. So in the preview week, it looks like this. So my campus has a 1 week, all online courses open 1 week before the semester starts, and students are allowed to preview their online courses. And so I tell them this is what they can do in the preview week. And I don't let them interact in the discussion forums or take quizzes or anything like that. But I do let them look at that orientation unit. And this button then takes them straight into the orientation unit. They just drop right in to where they would start. The first couple of days, I kind of point them to that next buttons. But I figure by the time they do that a couple times, no one else is going to need to be told to look for the next button. Okay? If we go back to Pages, and again, it's always going to display your current page when you click on Pages. But I had Welcome to Preview Week, but then I have another page for when it's no longer Preview Week. So welcome to the course, ready to get started, here's how you get started. It just drops them right in. The second page they're going to get to is the to-do list for that that orientation unit. So it drops them right where I want them to be. I control where they're headed. Okay. So questions about that homepage, you might have to think about it a while and think about, you know, how often you're willing to change it or interested in changing it, what the flow of your course is. And remember that the kind of golden ticket is, I don't know if I like that metaphor. A golden ticket gets you a prize, right? The thing you need to think about the most is that your homepage will not have that next button. So though your desire may be, oh, I'll just make the homepage the first page of my unit, and then I don't have to make a new homepage, but then you lose that next button. So they'll get the information, but they won't have any way to get to your next page in the unit. So I'll show you something I did in the first Canvas course I taught, because I learned the problem about the homepage while we were testing the course. And then I was like, oh, I need to build a homepage. So I recognized that, right? Or I need to use a module page as a homepage, but we'll see. I don't work for UC Santa Cruz anymore because I have a full-time job with that one. So I've been gone for a year, but they haven't yet figured out that they should lock me out. So I can still get into my courses to use them as examples. Okay, so let me go to the first time I taught this course. We're going to go to this one. And so here's my first time I've taught it. Here's my welcome. And then there's no link to anything. So after they got through the welcome and after they watched this little screencast video, the students were stuck. And so the first day of class, I got, like, there's 25 students enrolled in the class, and I bet I got 10 people saying to me, like, after I read that first page, should I do something? And I'm like, well, yeah, go on to the orientation unit. Well, how do I get to the orientation unit? And they're a really good test case because there's not very many online classes at the UCs, right? So these are all students who have really never taken an online class before. And so they're a really, really interesting test case. Okay, so I got smart, right? I thought, oh, this is a design problem. We need to make sure this doesn't happen. So I redesigned that homepage. Well, that's not it. Oh, this hasn't been set or something. Oh, poo. Where are we? Oh, I think I might have been fooling around with it. Here we go. Okay, so let's go to pages. And all pages. You can see how these numbers really, really help, right? So our head's in the way again. Where is the welcome page? The very first. Oh, it's this one. Okay, so when I set this as the home page, I put this little next button in it, right? Because when it's the home page, it doesn't have a next button. So they need some way to get to the next page. But I still left it as the first page in the module. So if they're reading and they click next, oh, I fixed it already, darn it. What it would do is just take them in an infinite loop. They would never get beyond that first page, right? And so anyway, that's how I figured out myself when we were all new to Canvas that you have to be smart about the way that you design that first page so that students actually have a way to get off of the home page and it drops them into the module. What I had linked this to originally, because of course you have to make several mistakes before you get it right, was the first page in this module, which is this page. So it was like linked to itself actually. So it would just take them in a little spin. But now I've fixed it. So
a quick question. I have 16 weeks and basically a module every week. And so what I've done is I've just made a grid, a 3x5 grid, and put a link to each of the modules. And the first one says, start here. And, and then after that it says week 2, week 3.
Yep.
I mean, I could say week 1. I think they could figure that out. I probably should just leave it as week 1, but that's okay to do it that way. I mean, I have a little more content on the homepage, but that's the big thing is
yes.
That way they can navigate to each week from there. I notice you guys are updating every week on our page where you say, welcome to week 7 or whatever, and you click on that and it takes you to the module, the start of that module. But I could just put the whole thing, boom, and then I don't have to worry about changing it every week.
Yes. So you would probably use a table to do that, to keep all those images the same. And it's not the most accessible way that you can do it, but it's not going to cause an accessibility problem so long as your table goes in order.
Yeah. I used text. I just put the words week 1, week 2. I didn't use images on there.
And then the only thing that you have to worry about is that when someone gets into, week 6, they're going to be like, what week are we in? And so you might have students that are like not quite sure which week they're supposed to be in. Yeah. And it's kind of a pain in the butt to put all the dates in because then when you roll the course over, you've got to go change those dates. But, if you can keep your students on track, if they clicked on the wrong module and the module wasn't open, it would just tell them when the module would be open.
Right. The links, as soon as they go to it, it won't take them to it if they're not opened yet.
Right.
So I can also put a link in the announcement too, right? They'll take them straight to the module.
Yes, you can. Yeah. Okay. You can put a link anywhere.
Okay. So I'll do that too. I'll start putting links in the module saying, and here's a link to get you right into this week's module. So in case they're confused at what week, even though it says in the header of the announcement, but hey, I expect them to read that now. That's asking a lot.
The interesting thing about online teaching is that students do ask you more questions, right?
Yeah.
And it gave me, after I taught for almost 20 years before I started teaching online. And then when I started getting these questions from my students, I was like, wow, they must have always been thinking this, and they just didn't have a venue to ask it before. And I'm surprised by some of the questions, but you need to be aware that they're there, right? Then you can address them better.
So one more question on pages. So I've in the past used Pages, and I one of the courses I've written, and I've used Pages for generating my assignments. So all of the resources, everything they need for that assignment shows up on that page. So videos they need to watch, links to the textbook, external links for any other resources they might need. And of course the page is, 14 miles long because of this. And so I'm working to try and either do one of two things, either break it into separate pages or to do the tabbing. And right now the tabbing, to me, I really like the tabbing. I think that's a cleaner way of doing it because it's only about 4 pages. Really, it's about the most it's going to turn out to be. But I posted a question about it. I kind of run it into a bit of a glitch with the rich content editor is that I build the page, I put the tabs in, it looks beautiful, and I go, oh, wait, no, I need to adjust that on that particular page or, that particular tab. And I change it, and now boom, all of a sudden it's just all messed up, and it's put stuff from the first tab and through every one of them and all of that. So I think I've cracked it, and that I just want to check this with you, is that I'm going to build out, the 14-mile long page first, and then put the tabs in at the end. And if I need to edit it, I'll go in and edit it in an external editor. I won't do it in the rich content editor, but I'll get, all the links, everything I need from Canvas that are so much easier to deal with in the rich content editor done first, and then do the tabs, go into the HTML editor and do the tabbing then. Is that, am I on the right track there?
Well, so I can show you why your tabs are breaking.
Okay.
And then that might help you kind of figure out what you should be doing. So we'll just go, we're still building this last unit here, but so this is one of our courses that's not using SoftChalk. So all of our content is in content pages rather than SoftChalk. So, and this is still a course that's under design. So you can see here that there is a lot of content on this page.
Right.
So we'll decide where do we want tabs and where should those tabs be, right? But here's another page. It's not like I have this course memorized. We were just working on this page, okay? I just don't want you to think of
No, this is awesome. It's a great example. This is perfect.
And here's all of the information on captioning videos. And it broke down into obvious tabs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So of course, we're going to use tabs on this page. So when we originally built this captioning guidelines was on a separate page. So there was 4 tabs: captioning exceptions, foreign languages, plain captions, and help with captioning. And obviously, the captioning guidelines belonged on that page. Mm-hmm. And so we had to enter it very, very carefully. So what you want to do is go into edit mode. And when you're in edit mode, you have to pay really close attention to what your headers are, right? So remember, in your tabs, they're up here, right?
Right.
And you want to make sure that you stay away from those. So here's one. Now, we've already got them color-coded because the color of this course is orange. And so the orange is kind of screaming at us, reminding us. But you don't want to mess with anything around here because there's actually code in there that you can't see.
Right. I know, yeah. Right? And then if you click on caption exceptions for me. You see down below, it'll start telling you.
Yes, it does.
It starts telling you that there's something about the tags, but it's still, even though I was paying attention to that, it still grenaded it.
Okay, so here's how I do it. This is my trick to making sure that my tabs don't get screwed up.
Okay.
If I'm going to edit, I always keep that period there. So if I'm going to add something in here, I make sure that it's between this period
Okay.
and where's the top here and this P.
And that gets you in the right div, because I'm looking down the bottom and you're right in the right div now. You're not messing with, you're not.
And so then when you're all done with that, if you've changed, the first word is no longer perhaps, when you're all done, then you take away that P. Because all you're going to do to take away the P is just, wait, is my cursor there?
Yeah.
Is go like this. So you know you're still in the div, right?
Right.
Okay. So all of the changes happen between the first letter and the last period.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll try that. Let's
Yeah. And then the other thing that you can do, if you get text that's along the bottom of all of the pages, you're missing a close div, right? So backslash div.
Yes. Yes.
So
And it will go in and insert. It wants to balance the divs, and so it goes and starts inserting divs all over the place. And I'm like, no, stop that, So.
Yeah. Well, what you can do is find the start one. So they're all going to be like, okay, so.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do it in here. I have a nice HTML editor. This thing drives me crazy trying to find things in here. So.
Okay, well, what you can do is find that piece that is on everything and it's missing a closed div.
Right.
So it's usually like from the first tab, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then now it's on all the tabs.
Right. So if you just find where it's supposed to close and put the closed div, then it will stop doing that.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
So,
I sort of fixed it. I think it's just, it's because it's the first time I'm building and I'm not quite sure what I want in each of the pages yet. And so I go back, oh no, I need to do that. And then every time I do it, it would blow up. So
yeah,
I think if I build, maybe even if I build separate pages for each tab and then bring them all together in the HTML, bring it in, that might be even cleaner. I might thinking that might be a good idea. Okay, cool. I'll let you know.
For those of you that don't use HTML, I'm just going to say right now that I am not an HTML savvy person. I learn only what I have to learn in order to do what I want to do. And so you really can, with help, start playing around with things that you never thought that you were going to play around with. And so I'm now pretty darn good at the tabs and really, really good at tables. I love the Canvas tables. I think they're terrific. And if you want to play around with any of the Canvas HTML code, then you need to go to the Canvas styles. So if you just put in Canvas style guide, there's your URL. And this is HTML code that's built by Canvas. And all of them don't work, okay?
Thank you. I'm not going crazy. I tried some of these and it was a disaster. I'm doing something. It's not just me then. That's good to know. Okay.
No, some of them just don't work. Like,
thank you.
The buttons, you need to, especially if you want to make it a link, you need some extra code between the button and the link. And they don't give you that code. And so, I tried buttons until I was blue in the face and I couldn't get it to work. But this accordion works like a charm. And the tables are here. And these make beautiful tables. It just makes beautiful tables. You can see, this is one of my favorites. You'll see a lot of that in OESP. And then this one right here is the one that I use in my class. Because I do 3-week units, it's just like beautifully color-coded for me to do 3 units. And so you just come in and copy this code and then paste it into your page. And then you take out the parts that they have customized and put in your own custom things, right? So
to me, it's very intimidating.
I think it was intimidating until, number one, I didn't have a deadline, right? Yeah. So the last thing you want to do is like, oh my gosh, I have to put a table in my course and it needs to look perfect by tomorrow.
So if you're a procrastinator, it's not such a good thing?
Well, like maybe what you could say is like, I need this table in my course tomorrow, but it's not really going to go in until next spring. Yeah. So for the table headers, name, email address, section, and role are your columns, right? And so if you look down here at this code, there's a table header, there's a header, there's a header, there's a header. Those are the 4 columns. If I want 5 columns, then I've got to copy this, and then I've got to come in here and put my cursor, hit return, and then put the open it's called a caret, that open triangle, or whatever that is, lesser than, greater than, I don't know. Put a TH in, put the closing one, put the name of whatever I need that column to be, and then close it, right? So these always come in pairs, opening and closing.
All right, so don't be intimidated is your message.
Don't be intimidated, and do it with a friend. So if you want to learn how to do a table, don't spend an hour making 1,000 mistakes and beating yourself over the head unless you like that. I mean, Michael obviously likes to go fiddle.
Oh, yeah. Killing me.
Instead,
This beard was red before I started, you know?
yeah, instead just call someone and say, hey, you know what? I really want to put a table in. And, you know, we've helped some people that they're never going to get it.
Mm.
They get a little anxious as they're trying to do it, and then they're not really listening, and then, you know, you're just worried about them. But for the most part, someone walking you through how to do it the first time and then you trying, especially since we can record these.
Yeah.
Right, Barbara? Yeah. So if there's something that you want to put in your course and you want to figure out how to do it, I'll tell you if it's over my head. Like, I'm not ever going to help you put buttons in your course.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do it. But I can show you how to, where'd my sandbox go? Oh, I think I changed it.
I like how you guys have your homepage with the tabs, and the students can, or we can click on the tab. That's what I want to have in mind.
Not everyone likes that, believe it or not. So, yeah. I thought I had it still open here someplace, but the little buttons that I make to go from place to place in my unit are just icons from Canva, which is a free graphics thing. So I love that Canva.
What's it called?
You can sort of make buttons out of a table too. I mean, you make a table and just cheat and put images in the table, and then those are your buttons, and that sort of looks like buttons, but.
Oh, I've been in here before. Yeah.
Yeah. I love Canva. You can see that I have a wild mix of Facebook posts and my work here, but I would have said, 2-3 years ago, I would have told you that I don't do any graphics stuff, and now all of this is my work. So it's really fun. Hey, look, there's my dogs sitting on top of one another. See, I had to get that cropped so that I could post it to Facebook to get the absolute maximum look of disgust on the two dogs' face as this one uses this one as a couch. Yep. Favorite thing. Yeah, so this is a really nice way to make, there's my unit buttons, right? So I just make them. This is on the business card style, download them, upload them into Canvas, and then make them into a hot link.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so really easy to do.
And that's all HTML code, right? That you're.
This or the hot link?
Well, this, how do you?
Okay, so to use Canva, let's go back here. Okay, so say I wanted to make a button for my course. It allows you to choose the size that you want, and you can make it smaller too. So to make those little buttons, I just use the business card. So right here, okay, because it's, I don't know, looks like the right button shape to me. And then you can use one of these, like I'm all for the free, right? So I just skip anything that's got a $sign on it. And you can make a background. However, if you just want it to be a button, if you leave the background white, then it's going to blend into your white background, right? So then whatever your button is what's going to pop out. Okay, so if we just go to text, for instance, let's do something really easy. And you wanted it to be, begin unit 1. So this is for your sighted people to click here, right? then you can just delete this, or you could put in like, October. Oh wait, we're November, huh? What's today's date? The 7th?
Yeah.
So let's just say your unit was 4 days, because that's all I can add right now. Okay, so say you didn't like gray. You click on this button and say like, oh, my class, everything is blue, right? And if you didn't like that color blue, then you would click here and say, no, I want it that color blue. That's the color blue of my class. And if you know the color code, you can put that in, right? That's too bright for you. You can say, that's the color blue for my class, right? So now you just download it. And when you download it as a PNG, it allows you to make a transparent background. And I'm just going to save this in my downloads. And let's call it test unit 1 so that we'll remember. Okay, so I've made that graphic image. It's a PNG, so it can go to all different kinds of formats, right? Let's not put this in the ACE course that people are trying to make beautiful right now so that they don't get angry at me. We'll put it in the sandbox. So I'm going to go to my files. And by the way, you should always make your files hidden. Your students don't need to see your files. And this one's really messy because it's a sandbox, but I actually usually have like unit 1 and images in it, unit 2 and images in it. So it makes it easier for you to find things. But for right now, we're just going to upload it here. I'm going to go to our downloads again. Okay, so it's going to upload it to the files in the course, right? Hopefully remember what it's called. That's your job, to remember what we just called that, okay? All right, so I'm going to go to view all pages, and I'm making it an all new page. So I'm going to make a new page that's going to be my test front page. And you can type a few things in here. Hello, students, da, 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 right? Oops, look. I did bold somehow. Okay. Oh, it turned it into somebody's email address.
No.
Okay. It's really a person. That's okay. I'm going to go here to embed images. And then in my Canvas files, I'm going to look for that one. Nope, my course files. Sorry. And they're all in alphabetical order. So what did we call it? Test?
Test unit 1. Back up. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to click on this. Now remember, we want our alt text to say something for students who are visually impaired. And so if a sighted student is going to read, click here to begin unit 1, someone who's using a screen reader, it will already announce that it's a link. So it will say link, and then you just want begin unit 1. Here's where you would make the dimensions for it. 322 is big. If you were going to have several of them across the page, you would probably want it more like 200. And remember, it will maintain the aspect, so you can just click off of it and it will automatically change that second number. And then when I click update, there's my image. Okay? So you decide that looks awful, it needs to be bigger. Just click on it and make it bigger. Now remember, it's a business card size, so it's going to keep this white space on either side of it. So you don't even have to worry about putting space between the images because it's going to automatically keep that white space, which is another wonderful thing about Canva. Because it's already highlighted, all I need to do is come over here and go to my wiki pages and say, oh, welcome to Writing 2. That's my first page, right? So that's the first page of Unit 1. I just made it a link. So now when I save it, clicking on this is what made it the link. Okay? When I save it, there's the page. When I click on it, it takes me to the piece. right? So you can imagine if you played around with Canva a little bit and were comfortable with the editor, you wouldn't have to do something super fancy. You could just go in and use some of the pre-designed little images and build buttons for your course or banners for your course. All of this was done in Canva. The theme for my writing course is we do a critical analysis of Disney. So I made the little Mickey ears and put that on all of the banners, right? So I make all of the banners at one time. I make a list for myself of how many units do I have? So how many overviews do I need? How many discussions do I have? How many assignments do I have? I make all of those banners at the same time and download them and then upload them back up into Canvas. And then when I'm writing my pieces, I just link to that little graphic.
Okay.
Okay. Got enough meat for tonight?
I think so.
Lots to work on.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much.
Okay, so as you're thinking ahead, we're going to ask you in the next couple of weeks whether or not you're going to go for the certificate of completion or if you want the certificate of completion and the certificate of achievement.
Is there a timeline when you get one or the other? Like, I mean, like, let's say I say I'm going to go for the completion, but how much longer after I leave this course, or is it right at the end of this course? When is it?
So the certificate of completion is the one for the coursework. And so you have to have all your coursework in by the end of week 12.
Okay, and then the achievement?
We give you 4 weeks after, and we're actually talking about maybe extending it a tiny bit because for some people that 4 weeks is just not enough to make their units. But right now it's 4 weeks.
Okay.
And so, and you know, the important thing to remember is that we teach you how to make a content page, but a full unit is going to have more than one content page. You need that opening and closing of the unit to let students know that they've actually completed the unit, things like that. Okay.
Okay.
So don't wait till the very end to build. Think about what you need and build as you go along.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate the extra help.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Night.